Hey everybody, this is going to be a little bit unusual for me because I'm going to try to kill two birds with one stone, and that is I was getting some questions regarding, I just don't understand why would I ever use a smart object layer along with something called a new smart object via copy in a project to create a template versus one of my viewers sent me this image right here and said, is it possible to create a template so I can replicate this over and over again? So here we go. Are you ready for this one? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves out of the box creatively. All right, I got a lot of emails, well, not a lot, but I was getting repeated questions on the same topic. And so I want to make sure I cover that. And that is, what in the heck? I just don't understand the difference between like a smart object layer versus something called a new smart object layer via copy. So I'm going to do a demo of that. I'm going to create something called a template, because if you notice, a lot of my templates, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I use the concept of smart object layers in conjunction sometimes with a new smart object layer via copy. So I want to make sure we understand the difference between the two. So I'm going to build a template concept from this image right here that Ren sent me, asking me that if I could create a template off that little JPEG image that he had sent me. So I'm going to walk you through to show you how I did it, the building concept, and I'll show you the finished product. But before I do that, let's jump over here to buymeacoffee.com/Steven Photo Artist, because other new people, some of you have been there before, but if you go to the home tab here, by the way, thank you for the people that have been donated to support the channel by going to buy me a coffee, 1, 3, 5, 10. Some of you are actually doing 10 cups of coffee, so thank you very much. But under the extra tab, this is where you can support the channel in a different way. And I have different templates I've created. Now, not everything's a template, but if you click on something like this right here, and then if you click on this, you'll see a little video explaining what you're going to get in the template with the training video, that kind of stuff. Well, the concept I'm going to teach you here, think of this now as a mini course on you creating, with your own imagination, your own templates using these types of smart object layers. So let's jump right into Photoshop so this makes a little bit more sense. Let's do it. All right, as I jump into Photoshop here, I forgot to mention that if you want to send me a private question or there's a concern about something, my private email address is right here at stevenphotoartist@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes of the video. All right, right here in the Photoshop, I'm going to, by the way, Ren did not give me permission to use his entire name, so we're just going to use his first name. This is what he sent me. He sent me this image right here. So it was just a JPEG image in the email asking me, is it possible to take something like this and convert this into a template so I can use the design element of this over and over and over again? And so I'm going to share with you how I approach this. And also think of this as, again, a mini course on creating your own template. So my goal here is really to cover two things. One is designing your own templates using those smart object layers. I'll give you some suggestions on how you should finish this off and then convert it into a template. And then you could reuse this over and over and over again. And again, for the new people, if you don't know what a template concept is, you will by the end of this video. All right, so I started out with this. So I'm going to go to New, File drop-down menu. New is the category. And I believe in this one, yeah, I did it 12 inches wide by 8.5 as a height because I measured the aspect ratio of the image he sent me. And I just did 200 resolution. You could do it higher than that. I just did this as a starting point and just choose create. So here's what I've got right there. Now, what I'm going to do is go here and I'm going to take this image And I'm just going to click and drag. I'm just holding the shift key down when I'm doing this. Let go of my mouse and it puts a dead center right there. This sample one that he sent me, I don't need that. So I've got this on top. And there's a reason why I'm using this. You could do a sketch or layout yourself and do the same concept here. But I'm using this as a reference point to replicate this as I build this project. So what I did was I pulled the opacity down a bit. So I'm using it like for tracing purposes. And the first thing I did was I went to the background and, well, let me do this. Let me hide this for a second. And this could all be changed. I came down to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk here, chose gradient. And I went over here and double clicked to open this up. And I went to the blue category, which again, you could change all this stuff. I think I chose that. Can't remember, but again, it could be changed. And I clicked on OK. So it's a little bit gradient, light blue to a darker blue right there. Click on OK. And again, that could all be changed and adjusted. Now what I'm going to do is add a new layer right there. And then I'm going to add this. And I'm going to grab my marquee tool. So M for marquee tool right here in the toolbox right there. And I'm going to go right here in the upper left-hand corner, click and drag. So I'm using this as a reference point. Now I can change the size of this later than that, but I just dropped it in like that. And then I don't need that anymore. So there's my selection. And then I want to fill that with a color. So I just went over here. You could use a texture background, whatever, but I'm just going to do like a light gray or something. And then I'll just do Alt Delete. There should be Option Delete on a Mac to fill it in with that gray color. I'll get rid of the marching ants. So there's my box right there. Again, this is the layer filled in with that shape. And then what I'm going to do is right mouse click on this and choose to convert this to a smart object layer. Now that I have that done, and this will make more sense when I show you the finished product here, but I'm going to double click to open up the smart object layer. And I like to make things very descriptive and easy to use for myself because half the time I forget. So I'm going to grab the type tool. So T to grab the type tool here in the toolbar. And I'm just going to go over here, click inside here, and just type in, I don't know, place. Let's do this. Drop down image, enter here, and I know we can't see that. So I'm going to double click to select my text, go over here and change, or you could go over here if you don't have the contextual taskbar. Right here for text, click on this and say, I want to make that red so it stands out. Control T on my keyboard, Command T on a Mac. Just resize that so it stands out really big. And then I'm going to select both layers. So I select one, select the other one by holding the Shift key down, Control E, Command E on a Mac. So it's all consolidated down to one layer. Now I close out of this smart object layer right there and save that, update that with a yes. So that's what I started with. So that's my shape right there with the text description. And again, all this will make sense. Now I can start designing. Now, if you notice that when I turned this on, there was a white border around there. So what I did was with this layer selected, I came down to Effects and I chose in the drop-down menu here, where are you? Stroke right there. And then when this dialog box opens up, let me move it here so we can see this. You can change the size, whatever you want it to be. And the key thing is the position is set to inside right there. And opacity is 100%, and that's the color of this stroke. So let's just pretend, hey, I like that size. We'll do it about right there. Click on OK. Okay, so now I'm starting to design these things. Now here's an explanation of if I double click to open up the smart object layer, and then I go to File drop-down menu, choose Place Embedded, go find an image like that right there, select Place, position that image in that area so it fills it up. Make that a little bit wider. And you just enter on my keyboard. I'm just doing this fast. And then let's close out of that. Smart object layer and select yes to update that. So it drops it right in there. Now I'll get into the reflection part a little bit later, but a common mistake that people will make is, well, now I need to create one that is over here and one that is over here. So what I'm going to do here is, let me close out of this. I'm going to do Control J, Command J on a Mac. So I just duplicated that Smart Object layer, grab my Move tool right here in the toolbox, or V like in Victor. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, click on the image here on that layer, click and drag to the right. And then you could see if I reactivate this right here, I'm going to go to this layer that I just made a copy of, Control T, Command T on a Mac, and I'm going to right mouse click here on that layer, and I'm going to choose Distort. And then what I did was I went to this corner and I clicked and drag and lined it up with that right there. Grab this one. There we go. Grab this one, line it up with that corner, and this one right here. Make sure I did as close as I could, and then enter on the keyboard to accept that. And I'm going to hide that image. So you can see how I'm using the image he sent me as like a tracing platform for myself in designing this. But here's the problem. If I double click to open this up, and I don't need that image, so I'm going to delete that from the layer. And I'm going to go back to File drop-down menu, and I'm going to choose Place Embedded again. And I'm going to choose a different image, like that one right there. Click on Place, drop it in. Let's make that a little bit bigger so it fits in. Enter in the keyboard to accept that. Close out of that and choose Yes. And son of a gun, look at that. The image now is in both places. I didn't want that. I just need it in one place. And that's the issue when you do something like Control J, or you're copying up that Smart Object layer. They are linked together. I don't want it to be linked. So I'm going to get rid of that and rebuild this by doing this. I'm going to right mouse click on this, and instead of doing that Control J or Command J on a Mac to duplicate that, I'm going to come down to New Smart Object via Copy, choose that. Now this layer, and again, let me grab my Move tool to move that over like I did last time. They are not linked. I don't want them to be linked, but I'm going to do something else later where I do want it to be linked. So with this selected here, and let me just do this to open that up, and let's just get rid of that photograph. So I'm going to close down, update that. So we can see now it says Place Image here. Did not replicate it over there on the left, but I'm going to do, again, Control T. But before I do that, let me activate the top layer so I can see that. Control T on there. Right mouse click, choose again, Distort. I'm going to grab the corner, and I'm going to do this fast just to save time. I'm not going to be that accurate. Just so you understand the concept of what's going on here. And then again, enter the keyboard to accept that, hide this, and now I've got that lined up. So now if I go over here, double click, and I go over here to File drop-down menu, Place Embedded again, pick a different image. We'll just pick that one to be different. And let's make sure we fill that up. Enter in the keyboard to accept that, close out of that tab. Yes, let's update that. It should drop it in. So notice how these two Smart Object layers now are working independent of each other. Now, if I want to do something like a reflection, here's what I would do. Now, if I go to this layer, which is this one right here, the middle one, I would just do Control J, Command J on a Mac. I duplicated that. Remember now, these two right here are linked. So now I'm going to go to the lower one, Control T, Command on a Mac. I'm going to hold my Shift key down. I'm going to come to the middle one right there. So Shift, click and drag down. You can always adjust this to where you want it to be. And there's my reflection. Maybe with my Move tool, I'll nudge it down a little bit and enter on the keyboard, or just click on the layer. And there's my reflection. Now I'm not done with that, because I dropped the opacity down, and I'll show you how I finish this off to maybe close to 50%. And again, that all could be adjusted. But again, if I go to this one right here, this is the one on the far right, Control J, Command J on a Mac, and I'll pick this one here, and I'll do Control T, Command T on a Mac again. Hold the Shift key as I grab that middle node, click and drag to drop it down, enter in the keyboard, and move that down a little bit. but it doesn't match this, because you can see that if I pull the opacity, oops, should drop this down a little bit to 50%. This right here, I dropped this down to 50%. But if I go to the top layer to activate this, you could see that this is on an angle down here. And so I want to match that. So that's why I'm using this as a tracing platform for myself. So if I go back here, Control T, and I go right mouse click inside there and choose again to distort, now I can grab these corners here and match it the best I can on an angle, and then enter on the keyboard to accept that. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off at the very top. So hopefully this is making sense what's happening. And I would build a third one there just to save time. I'm not going to do it. I'll show you the finished product here in a minute when I get done with this. But I got to work smarter here, and I want to be able to keep my head straight on stuff. So I want to group things. So what I would do here is I would select these two by, again, holding the Shift key down, Control G, Command G on a Mac, and I would just label this like my right image. And now I would do the same thing here. Select this layer, hold the Shift key down. Oops, right there, hold the Shift key. So those two are selected. Control G, Command G on a Mac, and call that my middle group or middle image. Okay, so again, if I created something on the left side, I would do the same process and call it left image, just to keep my head straight. Now, with these two selected, or three if I made the one on the left side, and again, I'll show you the finished project here, I'm going to do Control G again, Command G on a Mac, and I'm just going to call that images, knowing that all my images are in that one folder. So right now I just have the two categories, but I would have like right, middle, and left. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now that I have that group set, I'm going to add a mask to that, and this is when I'm going to come over here to my toolbox, grab the gradient tool over here, and when I grab the gradient tool, I'm going to come up over here and choose, actually I'll go over here to choose the basic one. But I'm going to go to basic, and I'm going to choose that right there. And I'm just going to click and drag. Oops, I did it the wrong way. We can actually do it that way. What I'm trying to do is have the reflections, by just adjusting this, fade. And again, this is non-destructive. So if you take a look at this, pull up the mask, you can see how that mask works. And then if I turn that mask on and off, you can see what it's doing as it's fading away the reflections there. So if I had my third one there, which I will show you the finished one. So I like to keep things organized for myself. Now, before I turn this into a template, because it's not a template yet for the new people that don't know this, I'll do that for you. I like doing this. Let me expand this. The right top image here on the far right, I'm going to Control J, Command J on a Mac, excuse me. Oh, I'm getting that tickle back. So I duplicate it. That means they're linked. I'm going to click and drag and move it to the top. I'm going to hide it. So we need to see that. Then I'm going to close this out. I'm going to do the same thing again in the middle one. I'm going to grab that layer, Control J. They're linked. Click and drag, move it to the top. Turn it off. And we'll just regroup that. Okay, now I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to choose red. Right mouse click red. I like to add colors. And then I would put a description here, like right image or place image here or place embedded. And I'll show you the finished project there. And same thing there. So you have different instructions. And then I can keep all this stuff here tight and close down. Let me double click to open this up. Don't need the image there. Close out of that. Update it. Yes. Right there. Double click. Get rid of the image. Close out to update that. So you can see how I'm sort of setting this up. And again, if I had the third one developed there, what I would do, if you have everything planned right, like I don't need this at the very top. And any other modification design that you want to do, you would finish off your design. And then the very last thing you do is you'll go to File drop-down menu, go to Save As, give it a name. I'm just going to call this New Dot, and I'll just do this. I'm going to hold the Shift key down. So PSDT, I put it in caps. You don't have to put it in caps, but I'm creating a template format by putting the letter T. And then when I choose Save and just select OK, I will close out of this now. And now if I double click, there's my new template I just created with that extension, PSDT. Double click to open it up. For the new people, this is an untitled now document you're working on. In other words, if I goof this up and trash this, I did not affect my starting point. My template is still intact. So I can go in there and try to re-engineer things. If I, again, mess up, I can get rid of that. So now that's all I have to do is double click here, go find my image, File, Embedded, go find an image, place, resize that so it fits. And again, I'm just doing this fast so it fills in the spot. Close out of that, update it, yep. And then go over here, double click. And again, go into File, Embedded, or Place Embedded, I'm sorry. Place Embedded, and grab a different image. And let's make that a little bit bigger really fast. Let's drop it in, enter on the keyboard to accept that, close out of that tab, yep, to update that. And then if I hit a third one, I'd walk through the next thing. Then the last thing I want to do, especially if somebody's using this template, that they'd have to go into image folder, find these things individually, make sure they're selecting the right one to open up and that. I'm trying to make this simple to be used by having these at the very top. Hopefully that makes sense. So here we go. I'm going to close out of this. I'm not going to save this. So this is the one I created. So double click to open this up. And again, you could see that you don't really need to have that. So I just wanted to show you that I use that as a tracing element, and that's what I designed. So here is the images right here in this folder. I did one extra thing is I added a shadow in the background, just optional, right? So I did that. So all the information's there. If I go to images, just to keep my head straight, there's my left image. If I expand that, left image is described right there. My reflection, I even put that in a separate folder. Again, just to keep my head organized, but I really don't have to go there. Everything's closed up. I just go to these three spots and look what I did. Left image, place embedded, middle image, place embedded, right image, place embedded. So that's all you have to do is double click here and then drop in your images and then save this project as a TIFF file or PSD file. So hopefully all this makes sense. I'm giving you the building blocks on how to create your own template design using these different smart object layers, and hopefully understand the difference in the layers and how some of them are linked together and other ones are not. Because I was getting questions, people didn't understand, well, why would I use one versus the other in a project? I just don't get it. Most of the time, not always, but because there's always exceptions, but most of the time it's used when you're designing your own template concept with these multiple layers that you want to control. And some you do want linked together and others you don't. You want them to be linked separately of the other ones. So hopefully that makes sense. And by the way, if you're learning anything, if you do me a favor, that is like the video, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. So if you guys want to see this or would like to purchase this, I mean, I'm trying to encourage you to make your own, but if you go, man, I don't even want to bother with this, go to buy me or let me know, should I feature this at buymeacoffee.com? If you do want this, I'll be happy to throw that up there for like $5 with a training video with the template all set, ready to go for you so you can start using it. All right, so with that out of the way, I'm going to challenge you. Try to design your own. Have some fun with it. Think creatively. out of the box. That's why I love ending these videos all the time. Think creatively out of the box, and I mean literally out of the box. Until next time, see ya.